Hey everybody, Edo here, and for this week's video, I want to talk about three critical skills a Kickstarter creator, a creator in general should have, a game maker, that aren't talked about all that often. And like most skills, I think they're things that you can develop over time. I've developed and improved over time, but I really think across the board, they're super important. And I think I was talking with a few friends about other creators, and I was mentioning these skills, and I recognized that maybe we don't talk about them enough. So I wanted to. Okay, so jumping right in, an incredible skill, right? Patience. If you are a Kickstarter creator, you need patience. Now, we don't normally think of patience as something you can improve and develop. I think most people think that somebody's patient or they're not patient. This is an impatient person. But really, patience is something that you absolutely can get better at. It's something that is so important. When you're a Kickstarter creator, there are all sorts of times when you are going to have and want to have a sense of urgency and immediacy to what you're doing, and you're going to need to react or do things. And having a little bit of patience is a big deal. Patience in terms of how to deal with challenging situations, or patience to deal with delays, or patience to deal with other folks. But being able to calm yourself and let time pass is a huge, huge benefit to everything you do. Oftentimes, like say you have somebody hasn't responded to you, and you're like a lack of patience can create anxiety and stress inside of you where there's really no reason to be. You're just waiting to hear back from your freight forwarder. Trying to center yourself and be patient will just allow you to live better and longer, I think. But really, there's just a lot of things in a Kickstarter creator where they're out of your control, out of your process, and being able to be patient with it goes a long way. Sometimes it comes down to also patience allowing for other people to do their job, like not just the internal stress, but actually giving some space for people to be successful, to seed, partners to do what they need to do, is also something that often is very valuable and empowering to the other person. So as a creator, somebody leading a game or driving something to get completed, if you can create a little space and a little patience for other folks to succeed on their own, deliver, get things done without sort of being up in their face about it, you create more space and opportunity for them to gain ownership. And this is talked in lots of ways. If you learn about running teams and being a manager and like lots of things, like empowerment and all these types of topics come up. But I think supporting those things is the idea of having patience and being patient. In terms of as I mentioned, I really wanted to get away from this idea with a lot of these. I think this one in particular, that it's just something that's innate, like you either have it or you don't. I think you can work on it. I'm more patient now than I am, and certainly having kids helps you learn how to be more patient. But one of the most critical things, successful things I ever did to help, here's two things that have helped me with patience. Thing number one is when you're in a situation that's stressful or lots of dynamics are out of your control, I find that writing it down, and whether it's pros and cons but actually walking through the thought space of outcomes, you're not exactly being patient because you're sort of engaging it, but without engaging the other parties, you're engaging in your head. But that can allow you to sort of understand it, and you can sort of have, what is that worst outcome? What is the best outcome? What are how could this fail? And by doing that, there may be some things that you can act upon that aren't about, your patience. But I do think that taking that exercise can help you create your space to create space for other things to happen. I think the second thing that has helped me a lot over the years is whenever I'm impatient or anxious or going through that process of thinking about all of the ways something can go wrong and adding a lot of stress and wanting to follow up an email and email again, or all that sort of neurotic, for lack of a better term, behavior. One of the things I do to help me be more patient is just ask myself, like, hey, the last 3 times this happened, did anything go wrong? Like how? Well, I think that it's really easy to be like, oh, this person's not going to get it done. They're not going to respond in time. But if you think back to all the times the person did, like basically you remember the failures more than the successes, and just having a little moment to say, oh, like realistically, like how many times was I impatient here where like something was warranted? Oh, every single time this has come through. I've never had an issue here. Oh, I can just let it, like I'm just being impatient. So sort of reminding yourself that just because you're a little crazy in this moment isn't a reflection of like what's normally the case. And it's hard to describe. It's a little mental exercise, but it's just sort of like what's this anxiety coming from? And like, how many times did I have this anxiety and did it not amount to anything? Oh, 9 out of 10 other times it never amounted to anything. So maybe I'm overreacting or being a little impatient. So this is a hard one, but I do think it's important to be thinking about, and that leads me to the next one. Being mindful or mindfulness. And there's lots of different ways to think about it. You could say thoughtful. I'm not trying to, pick a specific words, but in particular, what I want to emphasize is being considerate and thoughtful and mindful of the dynamics that other folks are dealing with or working through as they're interacting with you and your project. So being aware and mindful of what your artist is working on, or what other challenges they might be having, or being thoughtful and aware of situations that might be making your freight partner work a certain way, or challenges, or even when you're dealing with a Kickstarter backer that's giving you a hard time. I think, putting yourselves in their shoes, but being really taking a moment to think through and being mindful of the situation. What's happening right now? We're in a Kickstarter, or this is happening, and there are these challenges. Okay, what does that mean to me? That means this. Okay, but what does that mean to the other individual involved, or the other 3 individuals involved? And where do they come from? Why are they acting that way? Oftentimes we just take it all as inbounds, as torpedoes or missiles, as everything's coming in. And part of it is about thinking through, like, if you can appreciate the perspective of a person acting a certain way or with certain challenges, that will help you be more patient. That will help you identify potential solutions. It will help you oftentimes just be more understanding and aware of the dynamics at play. So sometimes people call it like EQ, like there's IQ, like intelligence, but emotional, smarts. But in this case, I'm really talking about just, again, recognizing what is the situation as centered on you, but what is the situation as centered on somebody else, and how are those interactions butting heads? Because the more you're able to sort of appreciate, and again, like you can think about it easy, like, oh, why is this person complaining about this problem? Why is it important to them? Why is it important to me how we work through it? I get it on a backer level. But another way to think about it again is, oh, I keep having this problem where I'm working with this freight partner and they ship things before I want to, and there's all the I have to use this partner, but it always ends up they're not responsive, or something moves through, and it's like, well, okay, well, let's think about it. One, how important, they're critical to you, but how important are you to them, right? So understanding how they might be viewing your business compared to how you think of your business is a big part of it. Like, oh, yeah, 1,000 packages to you might not matter to them when they deal with $100,000 package deals. But also, if the way they run their business is like, oh, they just get things in instant ship, like they don't have a system for like holding onto your stuff and waiting for you to figure things out, you might be able to have some conversations around there and understand that, and then make some decisions on your end, like, oh, well then I shouldn't ship in that manner, or I need to be more forgiving of what's going to happen. Like, that's just how that partnership is going to work out. So it's just so useful. And even in a retro way, it's useful to think about some interactions you had where they were not successful, or the outcomes were not what you were looking for, and think back to how that might have happened. And also, future forward, it's not only about what's happening, but hey, I'm about to make a decision, I'm considering this. Don't only be mindful of yourself and what you want, but be mindful of what those impacts are to other folks and how they might be feeling as you proceed. And I think you will grow as an individual, but also do just a much better job navigating complicated situations in a way that delivers what you're looking for and your partners or people you're working for as well. So having that kind of awareness and thoughtfulness about, again, the situation centered around you and your business, and then the situation centered around the other individual and what they're doing as a player, as a designer, as a company that packages your stuff for your manufacturer. Like, those types of things are important to sort of pull together. Okay, so the last one that I think is really worth being aware of is just, it's like the opposite of what I just talked about. And it's sort of like a sense of detachment and separation from that center. Can you pull yourself out of that center and look into what your behavior is, or your system is, or your decisions are, with fresh eyes and not necessarily. Okay, I guess there's two pieces. It's like being able to be aware of your sphere outside of your sphere is super powerful, and then also like just not getting so spun up in your sphere. So for some examples, like, it's not only about dynamics with relationships. You're working on a game, it's been coming along, and you're playtesting it, but you're just like working and getting very absorbed in like your own understanding space. Are you able to step back and read your rule book with fresh eyes, or play it from a perspective of a new player, and sort of separate yourself from all the things you know to like, what would a new player be thinking? What information would they have? It's very difficult. Easy solution is just work with other people and collate feedback from people who don't have that experience. But you can get better at sort of blank slating, and that's really powerful. But that same sort of detachment can be used in conjunction, right, with that mindfulness to say, how do I look in this situation? How am I behaving? How's my company behaving? And that's particularly powerful, like when dealing with Kickstarter backers and dealing with situations where you are being made uncomfortable. Sometimes, if you can separate sort of how you personally feel with the situation, you might, like, there's a big difference with, hey, somebody's frustrated because they something was damaged, or they weren't happy with how they received something, or like like whatever sort of dynamic. And oftentimes, and there are a lot of creators that just get spun around the axle, like, oh, that's not the right expression, but like there's a lot that who have not been able to get to the point of saying, oh, this is just the person with these things, how do I want to deal with it? But I'm not going to like get caught in this emotional roller coaster and not be susceptible. Like, I'm just going to take it as, this is happening. Like, how would I treat it how would I recommend somebody else deal with this problem? Not me getting all spun up, but like what would be a way to deal with this if I wasn't having this sort of intense reaction? And so I think working on that ability to sort of separate yourself from the situation, sort of trim those emotions down, is also really powerful skill to have and well worth investing in. And again, in terms of exercises, I did more for patience. I think, okay, so back up to mindfulness, I think that's really just taking the time to just write down if you're dealing with a partner, just write down, what are they thinking? What are their dynamics? What are their challenges? what makes their life hard, what makes their life easy, what kind of what kind of backer is it, what kind of player is it, what kind of like those. If you don't always have that information, but that helps on Mindful. In terms of detachment, that's a trickier one. Sometimes I think the easiest way for me oftentimes is, again, imagine I'm not playing the game I've been working on, or imagine this is what advice would I give to somebody else? Also, sometimes detachment is as simple as being patient and letting you have some emotional space and coming. Don't send that email late at night when you're tired, or like if you had to pee or something. Wait, and be patient, and then send it the next day with a little more attachment from the emotions. I think perhaps having gone through this whole little video, which hopefully is useful for folks, I think this is probably, a lot of these things were perhaps things that I've had to be thoughtful and mindful of as a passionate creator. And I think, sort of a heart on your sleeve type of person. And I think it's probably like I think there's a amazing cross section of like people who fit these, who are like entrepreneur or go-getter, creative, want to make and build and share joy, like overlapping with people who like have some challenges with like patience and anxiety and mindfulness and getting consumed in what they're doing. And so like I think there's a decent overlap of people who like get slammed by these things, but perhaps not. Perhaps actually most folks are just like super analytical and like, this is never an issue. They're always paid. But, I don't know. So I do think these are critical skills. Some folks may already have them. If you don't, I tried to give some examples of how to like level them up. And hopefully it's interesting. Let me know if this I haven't done as many videos as a way, because I've done so many already on all things Kickstarting creators. So I sometimes find it hard to like find something that's new and noteworthy, if you will. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. Bye. Hey everybody, Edo here, and thanks for watching Gaming with Edo. Reviews over here on this playlist, League and Insider videos over here on this one. Subscribe, share, all that good stuff. But most importantly, play some great games. Thanks. Bye.